Well, hey everybody, glad to see you stopping back in at the Red Barn. I want to kind of do a reset for some of you that might be joining us for the first time. What we're doing here is we've got a 1972 Porsche 914 and it's getting a Ferrari 360 Modena engine and transmission swapped into it, just to let you know what we're up to here. So this episode, we got a bunch of little stuff to go after. We're all over the place. You can see that by the end of the week, the Mini gets out of here, so I've got some space back. And then musically, I'm kind of feeling in a bit of a Latin mood. So I hope you enjoy. All right, I'm back in the engine bay with a redo on some of the systems lines. I really didn't like the fuel line and the brake lines running on top of the tunnel. And so you saw last time I made the fuel lines run inside the tunnel, and this time it's going to be the clutch and brake line running inside the tunnel. So I've made up this bulkhead plate, and yes, it's currently blocking off where the shifter cables are going to come through, but I'll get to that later. Right now I just want to fabricate and position these lines, and that's why these are running at a 45, right? Because the shifter cables are going to come through in this area, so the clutch line's going to have to come up over, run up the firewall, and then, you know, into the transaxle. And the brake line, this one will run under the fuel lines here. This one's going to come running up over the shifter cables, and it'll find its way around onto the trailing arm on the other side. So this is what the firewall side of things looks like. And here's the interior view of that panel. Now what I did is I opened up a window here so that I could get to all of the stuff I need to get to for making these lines and attaching them and all that good stuff. I also changed the shape of where the shifter cables pass through, so this is going to be a little easier to fit. And now we go to the front of the car. And what I've started doing was I just took and sort of hand made up this oddball piece to serve as the front bulkhead. And what it's going to do is it's going to live like this. And what that's going to provide is two straight bulkhead fittings. This was the handmade piece just to get dimensions. This was all done on the bandsaw, and the holes aren't in the right place. This was a leftover of one of the versions of that rear bulkhead panel. So let me show you what I've been up to. So here we are back on the computer in CAD, and this is the shape of the bulkhead panel that I'm going to go with. So let me go ahead and cut this. And with a little bit of bending, we have the front bulkhead mount. And it sits in here like so. So the reason it's shaped like this is I have to get a wrench onto both sides to be able to get the lines to go onto the bulkhead fitting. All right, time to make the flares. Okay, I finished the lines, and a quick check showed that they are literally exactly the same length. And then, as I was going to put them in, I realized, whoops, I better put something on there to keep that tube nut from sliding where I can't find it. So I'm just going to go ahead now and thread these guys through here. Is in. Now we go play with the inside. All right, and there it is, in. So I still gotta fit this, and it needs to be, this side needs to be tweaked a little bit to account for a curve that sits right here in the tunnel. But that's way better than it was with those lines on top. It just looks a lot more tidy. It's out of the way. I have freedom with the console and all that. But there we've got fuel lines, brake line, clutch line, inside the tunnel. So, one last thing to do. Okay, we're back at the undisclosed secret shop, and this is what we're going to try to do. As you know from the previous episode, this is the engine cradle, and when I removed this crossbar, because I want more room for the lines, etc., this thing changed dimension by, it turns out it's only about 1/4 of an inch overall. So it wasn't the 1/2 inch that it felt like when we first looked at it. So now what we're going to do is we've got it clamped in the mill vise And we've got the big old oxyacetylene torch with the rosebud on it. And Martin is here. Say hi, Martin.
Hi. Is this when I say, hold my beer?
Yeah. Watch this. Hey, y'all, watch this. And so what we're going to do is we are going to heat this section of these two tubes up. And I'm going to give the old heave-ho to this wrench. And we're going to see if we can move this 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so that was exciting, and what's happened is we got half of the movement out of that side with that cycle. So now we're just going to let it cool down and see how much, if at all, it recovers. All right, well that was, again, pretty exciting, and we're waiting for this side to cool, but when we last checked, that thing slid right in there, just like butter. In fact, it fits better now than it did when it was new. That's a scary frickin' tool, that rosebud thing, man. It put out some serious heat. But anyway, so there we go. This has been corrected, so we're just going to let it fully cool and make sure that it doesn't move. It shouldn't, as I understand it. So, we're calling that good. Okay, then back at the red barn, and in it is. And man, I'll tell you, maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I swear to God, that fits better than it did before. Those things, all those fasteners went right in. So this is an all done cradle, and then this is all fully welded now. I got the rear pivoting mount link mounts all fully welded on there. So this cradle just needs to have a little bit of tidying up where that crossbar was sliced out. And it is all done, so yay, problem solved. All right, back at a different spot in the secret undisclosed shop, and here we are with the 20-inch disc sander. And this thing is a beast. And what I've done is I got a flat, I got to make sure the back of this is flat. And so I just gave it a quick check, just like we thought. It pulled, this welding of this fitting on here, pulled these edges up. So I'm just going to hit this on this this sander. It puts a nice finish on it, and I'm just going to flat this, get this flat, so we can put the O-ring groove in it. So there it is, nice and flatted. That thing does a great job. That disc is in need of replacement, but other than me getting it, hitting it at a slightly wrong angle when I first got it onto the disc and chasing that down, but it's nice and flat everywhere that counts, all the main bolt holes. This is all taken care of now. So now it's to work out how to get this thing figured out to cut the O-ring trench in there. Let's get back over to the machining center. Oh, yep, cool, right-hand drive Mini. And the two-tone metallic purple Rolls-Royce from the movie Superfly. Yes, indeed, that is really the car. I took my nephew to his junior prom in that car, and it was hilarious. And this was Martin's idea. One possibility for cutting that trench for the O-ring is to put this fitting in the lathe and then just see how concentric it is to that circle. Well, you can see that that fitting is not absolutely positively centered on that hole, so probably this isn't going to work. And it wouldn't be the end of the world if that O-ring was offset a teeny bit, but I'd rather not have it be offset a teeny bit. So what we're going to have to do is come back and figure out where the center of this opening is and probably cut it on a mill some way. This would have been super convenient, but it's not going to work. So onward to figuring out the next way to maybe cut that trench. Well, check this out. On goes the water plate. No O-ring groove yet, but look at this. Can you see that? See how I can rock that right around that bolt hole on both sides? I turn it around. You can barely see a rock. So it's a high spot right there and right there. So that disc sander, at least with me at the controls, didn't work. So Martin's grabbing his fly cutter and we're gonna put this in the mill and we're gonna deck it dead flat because I want it dead flat. So lesson learned, go for the mill, don't try to hand do it. And now a little unboxing, well, unwrapping. I already unboxed, but a little unwrapping of some more goodies. I ended up buying some special tools. And those special tools are this magical thing. This is the cam belt pulley tensioning tool. And, you know, little weird tool that's gonna make life much, much simpler, I'm sure. I won't bother unwrapping this now. This is just a clutch alignment tool. I opted to go all in and I bought a rear main seal installation tool rather than try to, you know, pound it in and all that stuff. I chickened out about guesswork and I purchased a specific tool for that. And then this Mac Daddy thing, because I've watched a video about doing this online and it looked like it was quite significantly important that you get this right. And so this is the, and I'm going to unwrap this now because I'm going to do this now, but this is the installation tool, removal and installation tool for the transmission hanger bushing. So this is a serious piece of kit. So this both extracts and installs the big transaxle hanger bushing, as you've heard me refer to it. So let's go take a look at this. All right, there's the hanger bushing, and in order to pull it out, you need to put this thing on the bushing. You can see there's a hanger section, there's a bushing, and then there's a lip right in here. And this thing is sized well, just undersized of that lip on the transaxle itself. So this bad boy goes in here, and it of course is the same size as the transaxle case. This is the same size, well, just undersized of the bushing. And this is the proverbial let the games begin on pulling this thing out. And it's not one of those things that apparently you don't just hit it with the impact gun. This thing's in there pretty good. And then you can imagine that once you've got, the reason it's so long is when you get the new bushing, it's going to be sitting outboard of this opening, and you got to pull it in to the appropriate place, you know, right here. So that is one of the first things that I'm going to do. Well, in keeping with the it's always something, this mount is rubber. It's been sitting in the car for the longest, you know, it was in the car for a long time. It's soft, as I've said, and what it's done is it's deformed because of the weight of the drivetrain pulling down on it. It's deformed sort of permanently, if you will, where this is not the very center of the bearing anymore. And what that means is when you put this in, because this bearing has been pulled up, this is not sitting nice and tidily in the center of the opening. Even though there's room here, this is being pulled out and pulled up, and it's not letting this slide into the housing. So that's the latest challenge. So I'm trying to figure out, I've got it just barely inside, so I got to try to put it back together and keep this thing in there, and then keep, you know, pull it a little bit, loosen it, check it, pull it a little bit, loosen it, check it, because I can't risk, you know, dragging this thing along the top of the inside of this loop. So I'll just keep at it. All right, so what I ended up doing was flipping this piece around. I don't know if that's correct or not. That's not how it came packaged. But what that caused was, it caused the flat side, this has got an indent in it, it caused the flat side to hit the rubber part, the center part of the bushing, and deflect the rubber inward, which I guess allowed this thing enough room to drop into that hole, as you saw. So it's working
but I have to stop every once in a while because this is freaking hard. I am sweating already. So yeah, I'm able to move it a little bit at a time, and it seems to move. And then as I think, it's generating a lot of heat from that friction, and it starts to expand after about that far. And so I stop, back off of this thing a little bit, and let it sit for a second. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. This is quite the workout. And yeah, really, it would be a horrible idea to try to just put a giant impact gun on that thing and spin it out quickly. I don't know what horrible things would happen if this thing could even take it. But, you know, it's coming out, so that's good. Nope. Don't rush. Don't rush. Follow the process that's working. I'm sure this is exciting for you to watch. Watching some guy work a ratchet. Yeah, this bolt, or rather this thread and this nut is actually quite warm. All right, so here we go. This is the last push, or pull as the case may be. There it is. All right, out it comes. And there's the bearing gone.
Well, after all that, I've been calling it the wrong name. It's actually a gearbox support pad, otherwise known as a tampone supporto cambio. Anyway, this is the new bearing. And I think it's always a good thing when you see an improvement being made in a replacement part. And where's the old one? I'm pretty sure I know how this goes in. But remember I was pointing out that this one has the arrow and the triple-sided rubber support. Look what they've changed it to. I suspect it's going to mount like this, not like this. But I'll verify the orientation this thing needs to go in. But yeah, so different and probably better. So time to install this thing. Okay, so I did verify that it is oriented up and down like I suspected. But the other thing to notice is there's a bevel on this side. There's not a bevel on this side. So this is the leading edge going in. So it appears that best practice is to pull it back in the way, you know, from the same side that I pulled it out. Apparently, this is where the real fun begins, because this thing is a challenge to get in there. So, here we go. All right, well, what I didn't film was the really difficult part is getting it. It's a super tight fit, as you can imagine. Getting that bushing, the very first part of it, to go in straight. It was constantly trying to pull itself into strange angles. So a little bit of soft rubber mallet, get a little bit of tension on it, bash on it, put a, you know, eighth of a turn, watch what direction it's trying to come out of true it at, bonk it in the opposite direction, rubber mallet gently, right? And I also got some lube. And this is part of the fun, is just keeping that, you know, pulling in face tight. And now it's just a matter of sneaking in on this thing. Yeah, this is a lot of friction. But so far so good. I think I stopped a little bit too early, but what I didn't want to do is pull it in too far, because what I realized is I don't really have an idea of what in is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a depth gauge. If I look at it from the top, I would say that it needs to come in a little bit more, but the depth gauge says, oh, actually the depth gauge says it needs to come in a little bit more. So I am going to put it in a little bit more. All right, one replaced transmission hanger bushing. Man, that was some work. All right, how about we try something a little simpler now? New engine mounts, or as they are known in Italy, tampone elastico supportos. And I've come to start using, blue tape as a that's not tight kind of reminder. So I won't bore you with doing the other side, but I'll go do the other side. Well, all right, that's a few things done. So what did we get done this episode? We got a little bit of progress on the water plate, but not as far as we'd hoped. We got the clutch line, brake line, rear bulkhead, front bulkhead, trans bushing, engine mounts. We got all the other service parts we need. So I think next time it's going to be finish up the water plate and start in on the belt service and tidying this thing up so I can really go after mounting it one last time. Oh, what else we did was kind of important. We fixed the cradle so the engine cradle can go back in. So slow progress it seems like, but man, there's a ton of little stuff like this that has to get done. So I'm going to call that for this episode. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. And everybody take care. We'll talk to y'all again real soon. Bye-bye.